What's up, Lootbox? Back again with a little bit of magic. Exciting things are happening. Midrange is sticking, it's evolving, it's getting different colors, and like I always love to say, Rakdos is back. So this card was first, or this deck was first posted on the 5-0 Magic the Gathering Online, and then Mr. Jody Keith picked it up, brought it to the Grand Prix, Star City Grand Prix, and placed first with it. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. So I built it in Arena, but running on the ladder, and well, first off, no one sees it coming. So I do expect this deck to get more popular, especially the exposure and like the blog post discussions about it. And I expect this deck to not be as strong as it is right now, because it will be people will know how to play against it. But right now, this deck is awesome. People like will play into like you're playing a burn deck, but really your tempo. I have the deck built right here. I'm just gonna go over some of the cards. Starting off with number 1, your shock, only 2, because you have Carnival. Carnival has been taking care of all those like those Lawnmower Elves and other little sticky things. It's also like I would say like one time I've used it to get that last damage on a Planeswalker, because they'll be like, oh yeah, sure, like all your damage goes through in my Planeswalker, so it'll still be alive. Did that in a lot of mid-range green-black matchups. Carnage has been great. The second half of this Carnival card, Carnage, you can start getting out, like you just start running out of fumes. Any tempo deck, you'll play your hand, and the best tempo decks will obviously refill their hand. This guy puts your opponent in the same spot, and a lot of times they can't handle it as well because they won't have a treasure map about a proc, and you will. The discard 2 cards it's just been awesome. A lot of times they're discarding a card that's been like sitting on for a while, a counter, and then they have to discard something else. So a lot of times I've brought in someone sitting at 4 cards down to 2, and they're just all their flexibility is just shot. Carnage has been a very, very little sweet spot. Dire Fleet Daredevil has kind of been a staple in a lot of red decks because his ability is just kind of broken. The stat line's okay. It's not as good as your Reveler, but obviously you can tech him out for your sideboard stuff. But that being said, he kills it against Mono Blue, and Mono Blue, I've seen Mono Blue probably more than anything else right now at the top of the ladder. So for now, he's staying. Lava Coil has been great. The Exile has been great against those, those black, green, like bring stuff back from the graveyard. And then this guy, his spectacle cost is actually coming. I'm actually playing a lot more than I thought. Well, first of all, you're just using him just to cycle. And cycling is very, very strong in tempo decks. And I feel it just feels really even stronger in this deck because you're grabbing like a Lava Coil, you were looking for, you're digging. But when you're down to like nothing, you're down to 1 card, you play your tempo, you're playing your tempo, you're versing a mid-range, like green-black, you're down, you have this guy on the board, Spectacle, and then you get to draw 3 cards. You're discarding probably 1, if any, because when you have cards in your hand, you want to spend them in tempo decks. And this guy, as long with your treasure maps, refills your hand, and it was very consistent. I would say at the highest level, you can probably 60% win. Oh, this deck is very hard, but you could probably 60% win just with the consistency of this deck. I mean, the sideboard, you obviously look at replacing some of these guys, but the ability this deck has to replenish itself is nuts. Okay, so Goblin Chainwhirler. This has just been a staple since it's been printed. It's just kind of broken. The first strike is a sweet spot, and then it clearing the board when it comes in is also just insane. I love those times too when they don't see you have 2 of them in your hand, and then you just clear a whole Merfolk board or something, or Night Tokens. Oh my gosh. Legion Warboss. Initially, there was 2 of these guys in here. One of them ended up on the sideboard. This card is just like a win condition in itself, but I found myself at turn 3 kind of doing some of my Carnage and my like Spectacle, turn 3 and 4. So if I'm not turn 3, Chainwhirler, I'm looking to do something else, and something that you usually don't see. So Legion of War Boss, I ended up cutting one of those. I think the list that actually did win first place had two. Rekindling Phoenix obviously doesn't include. This card is just nuts and is sticky. Oh, and it has haste. Man, this guy is essentially your win condition. This is the climax of the novel right here. Gosh. All right, so yeah, and then Karn for additional consistency, card draw. You sometimes will tech this guy out for Angrath when it depends the decks you're playing against. I've done it a couple times. Very rarely will I have both. It's just kind of I don't know. It's making sure that your other things are going according to plan. And then this guy, the Eldest Reborn. Jody Keith talks a lot about this card, and I just didn't realize the power of it. A lot of times people overlook cards when they're like, they're uncommons, but this Saga just fits so well this deck, and it's probably one of the most tempo sagas out there. It is 5 mana, but usually you're having tempo going. When tempo's going, the boards are kind of even. They might end up having 1 or 2 things like Planeswalker. So step 1 already keeps your tempo going. They're sacrificing their sometimes 6 mana Planeswalker they casted. Step 2, each opponent discards a card, which is like this fatigue that you're seeing in this trend. The discard in this deck is a lot more powerful than you think. And I really encourage people to try this deck and just see how they can edge out their opponents when you're getting down to the 10 lives to grit and they just don't have any more resources. And then, of course, the third part of the saga gives you all the tempo back. You get something graveyard under your control. You're trying to cycle for an Eldest Reborn in this guy, especially the games that go longer. This will win you the game. Siege Gang is another kind of alternate win condition. If you're going the tempo game and they're not answering your stuff and they're getting down to the 8s and you just play this guy in curve, you're fine. You're fine. The allocated mana, of course. Sideboard is interesting. I made some changes to sideboard, like adding some Bedevils. This kind of furthers your anti-control, your duress. This card's been a tech card since, as far as I can remember. Whenever this card's in standard, it's a tech card. A little more removal. This one, it's got the kicker. It's expensive. I used to have 2 of these. Now I don't. Actually, one of them got up for a status. Sometimes I need the Death Touch. I'm not gonna lie, for 1 mana. Also, statue isn't completely gone because treasure maps, when you sacrifice those tokens, you can grab your green mana if you need to. I haven't had to, but that's why it's on the sideboard. And this guy I've actually had to use. I started losing tempo against a couple of green-white decks when they get super sticky with their lifelink and stuff. So I have teched in the Fireys a couple times. A second Legion. The Bedevils when you're versing some Planeswalker heavy decks. Bedevil, you can just call Bedevil like Karn Assassinator. Period of Horrors is like your Karn, but you can even say a little bit faster. Because every time you're exiling, instead of getting your silver token, you're exiling and you just know it's a Theater of Horrors. And then if you can cause damage on them, you can, cycle your deck and cast these cards and you know what they are. I've tapped it in and out because it does affect your curve sometimes, but Theater of Horrors is awesome. And then your replacement Angrath for your Karn, or you can run both of them. I've done it a couple times, didn't really like it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Great against Asper Control, and that's what you see a lot of. It's great against Mono Blue. You tech it a little bit more for Mono Blue. You tech in your board clears a little bit more if you're versing those green grid beam ranges, and then your Lava Coils are an answer to like a lot of black decks, and it's pretty complete. It's really consistent, and the only times you have a hard time is if you don't curve out. But what deck doesn't? If you don't have your mana, you don't have your mana. So I would highly recommend people try this deck. This deck will see a lot more, get a lot more exposure. It's very, very strong, and who knows? Maybe I might post some gameplay footage of it. Thanks for watching. Peace out.